What's up, people? Welcome back. Hopefully you guys are doing well. My name is Carlo. I'm a filmmaker, cinematographer based out of New Jersey. If this is your first time stopping by, thank you. If you find this video to be helpful, please hit the subscribe button, like, comment, let me know what you think. So before we jump into today's topic, I just want to speak honestly. To be honest, YouTube is not an easy thing, and today I'm definitely struggling with that, and especially with these talking head style videos. And sometimes I sit in front of this and I'm like, I don't want to do this today. And today is one of those days, but I'm gonna power through it because I know that the content that we're gonna be talking about today, the knowledge and tips and everything we're gonna be talking about will help at least one person. And to me, that's the reason why I'm continuing making this video today. So the topic we're gonna be going over is how to achieve soft key light. The topic we're going to be going over today is soft lighting. And yes, this is everywhere on YouTube and a lot of people talk about it. I think I've done maybe one other video about it, but I wanted to just bring it up again and talk about a few different ways to achieve soft lighting, and not just by using a softbox, but by using a bounce or different types of fabrics, different window shears. So there's gonna be a bunch of comparisons today between hard light, soft light, the different types of soft light in the same scenario. So soft lighting is a light that tends to wrap around an object or a subject and creates this sort of diffused, blurry, or almost non-existent shadow or edge. So a lot of times you can achieve soft lighting with a hard light. The way to do that is by adding a certain amount of diffusion in front of the light. And that's primarily what we're going to be talking about today, is all the different types of diffusions and bounces to achieve soft light when you have a hard light source. Another thing to note about soft lighting is its size. Relative to the object or the subject that we're shooting, soft lighting is generally a lot bigger of a source. When you have hard light, the size is generally a lot smaller and be very direct in terms of where the light is going. It's not spread out. What I mean by soft lighting is what you do in front of the light to create soft light. The light fixture itself is not soft. You have to create soft lighting. All right, so we're gonna be going over 3 different scenes that I shot today. And the first one is gonna be my buddy Tomas sitting on the staircase on his phone drinking a cup of coffee. So for the first setup here, you can see that is all natural. No light has been added. All the house lights are off. The only thing being lit is by the windows and the natural sunlight. So as you can see, it's pretty dark in there, but by the way I composed it by shooting on the shadow side, you could already see that the windows on the far side of his face can be a motivating factor for the key light. Setup number 2, I introduced a softbox. And softboxes have become really popular lately, especially with companies such as Nanlite, Aperture, Godox. And I use softboxes for a lot of the shoots that I do, and 9 times out of 10 it achieves the look that I want. Sometimes you got to do a little bit more, but for the second scenario here, this is what it looks like with a softbox, about a 45-degree angle, motivated by the windows coming from the far side of his face. So one thing to note about the softbox is the light is still being directly shined onto the subject. Even though it's going through a big sheet of diffusion there's still a little bit of shine going on his face and a little bit of a hard light just because of how directional that light is. So for the next scene, you're going to notice it is a little bit softer because I added a sheet of silk right in front of the softbox. So for the third scene here, you can notice that his face is slightly softer, and the reason why it's softer is because I double diffused it. And what double diffusion means is adding a second sheet of diffusion in front of the already diffused light source. So I have the Forza 300 mono light, which is a hard light, then I have it on the softbox, which is already diffused, and in front of the softbox I add a sheet of silk. And the one thing to note about double diffusing and adding a sheet of silk is you want to make sure it fills up the entire sheet. You don't want to just have it be a small beam inside the sheet, because that's not creating a big broad source. You want to make sure that the sheet is far enough away from the softbox or far enough away from your light source that it fills the entire sheet of silk. Alright, so for scene 4, I changed it up completely, took away the softbox, took away the diffusion, and left with the hard light. So what I added was a V-flat board, and this V-flat board is a great tool to have if you wanted a really big bounce or if you want a really big neg. So a V-flat board is a great tool to have. So to achieve this bounced look right here, as you could see, first thing I did was take my mono light, add a cone attachment, and I shined it directly onto this white bounce. So the benefit of using a bounce instead of a softbox is the fact that it's not directional. Immediately you'll notice that the light doesn't have any sort of harsh shadows or harsh light or any sort of shine or anything, because the light is being bounced off of a white card, which is already diffused. So for the fourth scene here, I pretty much did the same exact thing, but instead of using the plain white bounce, I ended up using unbleached muslin. The reason why I wanted to show unbleached muslin is because it's a different material than a typical white bounce card, and it has a slightly warmer tone to it. So you could use unbleached muslin as a bounce or as a heavy sheet of diffusion. For this particular circumstance, I used it as a bounce. One major thing that you might notice in here if you take a closer look is that the key light is slightly warmer than the white bounce. All right, for setup number 2, I had Tomas stand by the window. So my goal for this setup was to introduce hard light and how to transform that into soft lighting. So what I did was, because it was an overcast day, I didn't have any natural sunlight, so I took my Forza 300, added a Fresnel attachment to it, and shined it directly through the window. Since this window had some particularly cool shades to it, shining the hard light through those shades in the window created a nice design on the wall. First scene here, I didn't diffuse anything. I just let the natural hard light from the Forza 300 shine directly through the window and right onto his face. And as you can see here, he can barely see. The light is extremely hard. Look at all of these different shadows that are going on when he moves, and they're very defined. That's how you know it's hard light compared to soft. So moving on to the second scene here. So what I did was adding a window shear. Now this was something that you could do initially from the start when you're designing a particular scene here. And adding a window shear to a window has a couple benefits. It cuts off any hard light, creating a little bit softer of a light. It also adds a little bit of a production design to the window if it's just bare. And no, I'm not a production designer. I'm not the best at setting things up like that, but this is the purpose that I wanted to just show today, was if you add a window shear in front of a light, even though the hard light is still present, it'll cut down the intensity and it'll definitely create a softer look. So right here, you can see that the light is a lot softer. And as he peeks through the window shear to reveal something, to look through the window, you'll notice that the hard light is a lot more intense than the soft light when he comes back. So that's the one thing I want to note is when you're shooting against a window, it could be kind of interesting if you wanted to introduce any sort of window shears, and they come in all different shapes, colors, and sizes. The colors and options are endless, and that's really what creates your cinematic style for a particular scene. And for this one, I just used a basic white, but I just wanted to show and emphasize the point that hard light can still be diffused on a certain object, yet still be hard in the background. So for scenario 3, it's pretty much the same setup as last time, but the one thing that I did change was instead of adding the shear to the actual window, I just put it on a stand and brought it closer to Tomas's face. So as you can see in the first setup, so the light is really harsh and there's still some really cool patterns on the window, which I really like, and it emphasizes that hard light. But for this particular scene, I wanted to make sure that the light was soft. What I ended up doing was adding that same window shear, putting it on an arm on a C-stand, and putting it in front of the window next to Tomas's face, cutting off only part of the hard light, which ended up softening it on his face only. So comparing these two shots, you'll notice that the design in the back wall is still the same, yet the light that is hitting Tomas's face is way different. Now, if you're going for a hard light, then the one on the left will probably work, but for me, 9 times out of 10, I'm usually going for a little bit softer of an image, and adding that little sheet of silk on that arm only by his face allowed it to create a softer image while still illuminating a harder light in the background. So that's it for today's video. Hopefully you guys found some benefit. Hopefully you guys can take away something that you learned today and use it in your next shoot. So hopefully this video was actually okay, and like I mentioned in the beginning, it was a little tough for me to kind of get myself to do this one, and hopefully it translated well, and hopefully you still learned something from what we accomplished in this shoot. So until next time, thank you guys so much. Please hit the subscribe button, like, comment, follow me on Instagram @CarlosStiggs. I will see you next time. Have a great day.